So you were able to obviously get a lot of really nice honors in your career. I mean, you were Pro Bowl, All Pro, 90s team NFL. I mean, uh, Texas Sports Hall of Fame is kind of unique in that it's, all these different sports. You have baseball and basketball and swimming and everything else. Like, what does that mean to you? I guess just to be recognized by, the state that you grew up in.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And what you have to look at is you're not just competing against guys or whatever that play football. It's football, basketball, swimming, golf, volleyball, men and women's sports. So it's a much larger playing field. So to be able to be, dwindled down and actually get that nomination and actually be inducted into one of the classes is it's pretty tough because I think what is it like maybe six of us this year.
I
So
think there's eight. Yeah, eight.
yeah,
So,
maybe eight. So to I take my hat off to the selection committee because that's not an easy task or an easy job to whittle it down to eight people. So, but I definitely am honored. This is probably the highest as far as like you said. You mentioned the NFL honors and stuff like that, but when you kind of look back and say, okay, this is not just football. This is sports, and not just one sport, but multiple sports. To be able to be included in a class like this is truly special.
how did you learn the news, and what was your reaction when you got that word?
Actually got a phone call from John McClain. Actually called me and delivered the news, and then I spoke with Krista, and I was running errands with one of my buddies, and got a phone call, and I answered it, and you know they told me congratulations, which I've known John McClain from when I was playing back in my days at A&M. But he's one of the most well-respected journalists around. So for him to make that call was pretty huge for me. And then just being on the ballot of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame is a huge honor because there's so many great athletes have played here in the state of Texas. I think for me, football was always my passion. I basically played football and basketball, but started playing organized football in middle school. So seventh grade, wanted to play little league, but I was always a little bigger and heavier than kids. And you play in little league, you got a weight limit. So I would have to always possibly play with kids that were a year or two older than me in order to play. And my mom, she said, no, you can just wait. She didn't want me to do that. So I actually started playing organized. I mean, we used to play in elementary and, in the summers and stuff like that. We played like, I guess what you call sandlot football. But, the thing I think growing up for me that I can appreciate is a lot of time I can remember in elementary, you used to take a piece of paper out of a notebook, ball it up, and, we would play with that, throw it up, and then whoever could get it off the ground or catch it and take off running. That's what we did. But that was some of my most fondest memories of growing up.
Nice. And were you always one of the bigger kids?
Always been about a head taller than everybody until I got to Texas A&M. We had a few in high school, but yeah, that's when I really noticed. You don't think about it until you get there, and then you start seeing guys come in, and you actually feel normal now that you're not just a head taller than everybody. So
Sure.
that's when I really noticed. I said, "Oh, it's a different level now."
Right. So, did you ever play any other positions besides, on the O line?
I actually in high school and junior high, I always played either offensive tackle or offense defensive line. I always kind of fluctuated between those, and sometimes in high school stuff you can go both ways, this and that. But actually got recruited as a defensive lineman to Texas A&M, and then after about a year and a half, they switched me to offensive line, and Coach Cheryl made that decision, and he knew better than me because I wasn't very happy at the time about the transition because you're a competitive person and you want to
Hmm.
prove that you can do it. But sometimes people can see things in you that you could actually develop. And I know I had a much better career playing offensive line than I would have defensive line.
Mm. What did you ever ask him? Like, what did he see in you that suggested that that was where your future was?
No, I think back then it wasn't open for conversation. So just knowing Coach Cheryl, but now we talk about it. I see him now, and he even told me, we laugh about it. He said, I always knew you were going to be an offensive lineman. He said, but I couldn't tell you when I was recruiting you because you would have went somewhere else. And I say, yeah, you're probably right. And so we laugh about it. And he said, he said, if you're playing now with NIL, you will be gone as soon as I told you that. So we got to joke and laugh about it. So I got a pretty good relationship with my coaches. So that's good.
Right.
I was recruited. I probably got mail from majority of the D1 schools from around the country, but I focused more in back then with Southwest Conference and Big 8. So, and then the other thing was A&M it was several guys that had went to my high school that went to Texas A&M and had played and had success. And so with me wanting to major in engineering at that time, A&M had one of the top schools in the state as far as, engineering. So all those things played a factor in, making it that determination. It was one of the best decisions I made. Yeah, I mean, the good thing was, like you say, you'd be part of those teams, but I didn't really go through the transition of when Coach Cheryl first got there. So if I'd have got there a couple of years early, but I was there from when we won that first Cotton Bowl, went to 3 in a row, and just seeing the way the upperclassmen and the guys that were starting, the way they prepared, the way they competed during practice, it was like you had to buy in. And it wasn't just the coaches had high expectations, but the players as well. And so that kind of formed my mental going forward, because I was a guy, I think I came in A&M, I was probably 245. So I had to get up to like 270 or something. I was really underweight, and those upperclassmen, they beat up on the younger guys a little bit. So I was on the scout team. Them guys used to beat up on me, but we got a great relationship now, and I still look up to those guys because they paved the way for guys like me and that came after me. So tremendous amount of respect from the guys that I tell them they raised me, but they have respect for me too. So it's mutual. I appreciate that. I think some of the best memories at A&M is just all the traditions. So a lot of them I didn't get to experience, like fish camp and stuff, because we had to go to training camp. But I think Coach Slocum eventually, when he took over, he started letting guys experience that. But just some of the core values, integrity, character, even coming from inner city of Dallas. People, you walk by and they say howdy, howdy, and I kind of look around like, we don't talk like that. But before I left A&M, I was talking just like them. So it's just one big family. A lot of people don't understand it, but what I appreciate about Texas A&M is I can talk to guys that played 10 years before me or 10 years or 15 after, and we have the same values. And if people see us interact, they would think we were teammates, but then they would look and say, no, he's too old or he's too young. But it's just, that's Texas A&M, and that's what it's about. And that's what I love about Texas A&M. I was, I'll say this. I was a huge fan, Dallas Cowboy fan growing up in Dallas, all the old school Cowboys, and even like Too Tall Jones. I remember, as a kid watching him, Harvey Martin, D.D. Lewis. So all those older school guys, that's the Cowboys that I remember, the Roger Staubachs, Tony Dorsett's, stuff like that. So I think it's a childhood dream. I think of whether it's football or whatever sport, but to actually, for it to come to possibly being reality, I think maybe my junior, senior year in college. I knew I'd have an opportunity, and then they said I was possibly my senior year first top 3 rounds. But I was like, I don't know. I just said I just want to have an opportunity to at least go try out somewhere and play. But everything kind of came together, and I had a really good senior year. Played really well at the Senior Bowl. That really helped elevate me. And then just going to the NFL Combine and working out, and had a real good workout there. And it transitioned. My stock kept climbing, and I actually became a first round pick. So it was a dream come true. But I think a lot of guys, some guys know that college might be as far as you can go, and sometimes you might have an opportunity. But sometimes just to get the opportunity to try out for a team to say, I actually had a chance, I didn't make it, that's a pretty huge accomplishment within itself.
You mentioned following Ed Too Tall Jones. I mean, you're going into Texas Sports Hall of Fame with him. That's pretty cool.
He's in the class, and one of my teammates from the Dolphins, actually, I think he was in Dallas his rookie year, so he knows. I still call him Ed Too Tall. That's just the way. I remember from the announcements on television, they were talking about the game. But I'm out to mention that to him. But I've met him a couple times. He's a really nice guy. So that's pretty awesome. You don't get an opportunity to go into, receive an award like this with somebody that was, one as a child you looked up to. So it's that's special for me as well. It was a little culture shock, but the good thing, it was warm, and that was one of my prayers. I asked the Lord, I said, if you can work it out any kind of way, send me to a warm team. And so when I got that call from Coach Shula, I was overjoyed, and I thank the Lord. But I got to play for another coach that I had high respect for. I didn't know him like I knew. And I really didn't know him, but Tom Landry was that guy in Dallas. And there's very few guys, like a Chuck Noll, Shula, those guys that when you saw them on the sideline, you knew they were the cream of the crop. And so to have that opportunity, and in the way he was held in such high regard in South Florida and the things he had accomplished, it was good for me, because I've always had really good coaches and coaches that had discipline and stuff, and they normally get the best out of their players. And so it was just an added benefit to be able to play for somebody like Don Shula. Well, you think about it, there's two legends when you come to South Florida. You're a rookie, your offensive lineman, and this guy, he goes to the Super Bowl his rookie year. So Marino was already a legend, and I think the last way you want to be remembered is getting a guy like that hurt. So it was definitely a lot of pressure, and you don't want to be remembered like that. So that was motivation. But I think it's pressure on all first round picks, because the bar is set so high, and nobody wants to go in and have a bad rookie year or whatever, because you're typically labeled and this and that. And I think one of the key things for me was my agent was able to work out, the contract to where I only missed like a little bit over a week. But and so I got all the 2-a-days and stuff like that. I got a lot of reps against a lot of players that it's a difference between the NFL and college. And you would see a hole open up, and you'd be like, there it is, and then it would close right back up. So just adjusting to the speed of the game, getting the reps and all the reps in preseason and stuff, it really helped. And then you just keep working hard, and things kind of took off, and we had a really good rookie year. I think we went 12-4 and went to the playoffs. So that was, you can't ask for not much more better than that. Maybe a Super Bowl. We didn't make it there, but I was happy to make it to the playoffs. That was a huge accomplishment. Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely key, but I think it's your work ethic. I think it's decisions you make, who you're going to choose to pattern yourself after. Like I said, Don Shula was a great coach. He kind of I was probably more well-rounded because he introduced me to giving back to people that's less fortunate, donating to charity, this and that. And so some of the values and stuff I learned from him, and then playing with guys like Marino, Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, seeing how they worked in practice to be able to be successful on Sunday. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just got to kind of, fall in. And I saw how those guys worked and the success they had. And I said, yeah, it's a childhood dream, but this is a job and you got to take it seriously. And that's what I did. And like you said, if it wasn't for the God given ability and him kind of protecting me, but just, being able to go out there and play week in, week out, and be consistent for a long period of time, I think that's the key. But it's some of the decisions you make. Are I knew I couldn't party all the time because that affected, I'd be, some people can do it, some people can't, but you got to be honest with yourself and do what you got to do to prepare because, like you said, at the end of the day, instead of playing 13 years, you could have played 4 or 5 if you don't make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And if it's important to you, you will. That's something definitely to be proud of. But at the time, I really wasn't thinking about it until it was like a game or two before you actually get close to setting the new record that they mentioned. I just looked at it. Okay, we got Buffalo this week. We got the Jets this week. We might go to the Chargers. We come back and play the Steelers. So just getting ready for that next opponent and not sitting there focusing on a record. I think for me, it's always been team success over individual success. And as long as the team does well, that means you contributed to, being a better team and a better teammate, and not so much, a guy that's selfish and say, well, if I can't do this and that, I don't care about anything else. And that's not the right attitude to have when you're playing team sports. So I think that's another thing that contributed to success, is not focused on individual success, but overall team success. And I think it's the mindset. You just got to have the right mindset. I do. And the stories get better as you get older. I can tell you that. So, and they tell them better and better every year. I go back and hear them. So we have an alumni weekend. I normally try to make it back for that or make a couple of games. And I was, they actually came to Houston to play the Texans. So that was a bonus game. I got to, see some old teammates there and hang out. So, yeah, I think that's the main thing I miss. It's not so much the playing on Sundays, but the camaraderie in the locker room and, guys joking or just, shooting the breeze with the teammates and stuff. That's the part I miss. So when you get an opportunity to catch up with guys, it's always a good time. Beside honeydews and my youngest daughter, she's getting a master's. She's at A&M, so she's getting a master's in finance, and she has a job with Truist Bank. So we're very proud of her, very proud of all of them. They've all done extremely well. But other than giving my wife a hard time, we're trying to learn how to be empty nesters. So we got a few more months, and then we'll be able to move around like we want to. I really didn't. And then I think because I've seen how guys that are deserving, when they don't get there high, just kind of just eats at them and dwindles. So I didn't really think about it. I will be honest with you. Once I made the semifinals this year, it was kind of eye-opening because you're starting to make traction and say, okay, people are paying attention and this and that. So as far as, my resume, I think I have a resume to be there. It's just the people that's the selectors and stuff. I think I have a pretty good shot. And then, like you say, when guys like Dan Marino, the Dolphins, and people like that start getting behind you and say, hey, this guy's deserving, sometimes that makes them take a second look at you and say, yeah, we might need to put this guy in there. So I'm hoping that with the traction I'm getting, and then with people coming up saying, yeah, this guy's deserving and this and that I'll have a pretty good chance to get in there as well. But that's tough, like getting in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. So, yeah. my speech would be mainly about, gratitude, just being thankful, grateful, thanking the committee, this and that. And I think Krista told me I got 5 to 7 minutes, so that's a long time for me. So I think I'll be able to wrap it up, but just showing people that, hey, I'm truly appreciated, and I don't take this for granted or take it lightly, because, like I said, when you sit back and look at it, and when you got to go from as many sports as that, and then come up with 8 people for a class, that's a tough job. But to even be selected is one of the highest honors I've ever received. So I'm definitely grateful. Yeah, I think for me, I think I've really had my teachers had really good principals, whether it was elementary, middle school, junior high. My high school coaches definitely, and then I can remember being recruited. Coach Slocum was my recruiting coach, and him and Coach Sherrill, but Coach Slocum, he would always talk about not so much playing professional football. He thought I would have an opportunity, and he told my mom that bit. What he really pressed upon was getting an education and getting a degree from Texas A&M. And, that was huge with my parents. My mom, she pushed for education. We had to keep our grades up in order to play sports. But she would always say, you can only play sports so long, but, you get an education and get your degree, you'll be able to take care of yourself. And that was something that they've pushed from day one, from even before it really became a possibility that, you could have an opportunity to play professional sports. It was never about that. It was about going to a good school, a good university, getting that education, and being able to take care of yourself and take care of your family. So, like you said, Coach Slocum, Coach Sherrill, and then getting to play for, Coach Don Shula, one of the best to ever do it. And even had a moment with Coach Jimmy Johnson. He came on later, this and that. So I've just been really surrounded by great people that poured into my life. And I'm just like a big melting pot of everybody just mixing everything together. And it turned out good. So I'm glad about that.